Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're reviewing the season finale of The Mandalorian. This is episode 8 of season 2, chapter 16 overall, called The Rescue. And wow, what a great episode this was. Of course, always is a spoiler review, so please watch episode first and then come back to this. So anyway, this episode starts out in basically in a cantina where Mando and Boba go find Bo-Katan and Koska, played by Sasha Banks, and they ask him to help them in their mission to find Grogu. First, it's funny because they first come in. At first, they recognize and they hear Boba, and they realize like, "Hey, you're a clone. You're a clone trooper. You don't deserve that armor." And they get into a big fight, and of course, he gets into a fight with Sasha Banks, and of course, she has to do a running DDT on him. And as a wrestler, of course, she has to do that. I thought that was pretty funny. But anyways, after they stop fighting, he convinces her to help her find Moff Gideon, since he's got the coordinates. Is that in exchange for help, she can have the dark saber and capture Moff Gideon, and help in exchange for helping save Grogu. So they go. So anyway, they this elaborate thing where they at first, at the beginning of the episode, they had captured a cruiser with the scientists on there who had been doing all the cloning experiments. So then they use that shuttle in a ruse. So they get into Moff Gideon's range of his ship, and they pretend that they're being attacked by Slave One, and so that way it prompts his ship to respond. Takes Moff's trip to respond, so he sends out TIE fighters to assist, because they radio in like, "Hey, we need help." And so when they do that, they take their ship in and kind of somewhat crash it into the landing bay there, kind of force it in, and then they get out and they start battling all the stormtroopers. So that was a pretty dope scene. And so they the group before them go off in one direction, and then Mando goes off in another direction looking for Grogu. The other group is making their way to the bridge. Anyway, they do that. So when they get there, so he finds. While they're fighting their way to the bridge, Mando is down there. He finds where the dark troopers, are being housed. Now, when they had broken in, Moff Gideon had given the order to release the dark troopers. So they had just started to power up. One of them had gotten loose, and the doors are open. And so Mando tries to close the doors on him, but one of the troopers gets out, and they have a big fight, and he's getting his ass handed to him by the dark trooper. I mean, he was like, that was punching the hell out of his helmet. I would have sworn that, like, even with that helmet on, that Mando probably would have gotten his skull crush, would look like at the Force. But he's able to with using some tricks, he's able to get his spear and jab it and destroy the dark trooper, while the other troopers are stuck. And then when he defeats that dark trooper, then he hits the switch to release him into the airlock. So all the other dark troopers go flying out to space. It's pretty dope. So anyway, he makes his way he makes his way to the prison cell where Moff Gideon is holding Grogu, and he's got the dark saber on him. He's like, drop your weapon, which he does, and is like, that everybody wants the saber, and he says, well, I've already got Grogu got his blood. That's all I needed him for. So you know what? You can have him. So of course, he's like, hey, this is gonna be a ruse. So when Mando goes to get him, of course, then he attacks him with the dark saber, but of course his steel is able to blunt the attacks. So anyway, they have a pretty cool fight with him and with Mando and Moff Gideon using that spear, and he's able to block all the blows from the dark saber and overpower him. So he rescues Grogu after that fight, and then meanwhile, all the other people they get on the bridge and they overpower and take out all this stormtroopers and all the crew. So they've got to control the ship. So, anyways, he comes back to the bridge, and then he's got Grogu with him, and he's got the dark saber, and he wants to give the dark saber over to Bo-Katan, but then Moff Gideon tells him, like, she can't just take that from you. She has to, per Mandalorian tradition, she has to win it from you in a battle. And he's like, I have no interest in having this here. I yield. Please take it. And he's like, well, it doesn't work that way. It's like, oh, you're like, oh crap, what do we do now? Because that's the whole thing is that she wanted the dark saber, and he has no interest in really Mandalore. So, anyways, what happens then? All of a sudden, after that part, all the Dark Troopers come back that got leased into space. They got jetpacks. They go back in the ship and they're invading the ship again. And so they lock down the bridge, put down the blast doors, and then the Dark Troopers come to start pounding on the door. It looks like they're going to knock down the door. You're like, oh no. They're getting ready to fight. And all of a sudden, you see on the scanner, one solo X-Wing comes and enters the docking bay, and you're like, oh, you know who it is. You know it is. Then the Dark Troopers stop, and they just start heading down it, and one of them was like, and you see come out, and then they're like, "Oh my God, is that a Jedi?" And then boom, green lightsaber. Like, yeah, we know who it is. We know who it is. Hype. So, so then this Jedi who's always sitting in a row, you can't see his face, but starts taking out all the Dark Troopers. It's pretty dope. He's got all the moves and everything. You're like, yeah, we know who it is. Although the second there, you're like, well, maybe you know we know all who it was, but for a second there, I was like, well, maybe it's a new Jedi that we don't know of that's also using a green lightsaber. It's Star Wars, you never know. But so he fights this troop, this Jedi right through there, takes out all these. It's like a legion of Dark Troopers he takes out, and force pull and slice him up, and then the last one he crushes with the force. It was pretty tight. So then he comes and he makes it to the bridge, and Mando's like, "Oh, open the doors," and Dune's like, "Are you sure about that?" And he's like, "Yeah, open the doors." And so he does, and then he lets down the thing, and of course it's Luke. It is Luke. And what they do at first, I figured they'd have Luke on the show, but I didn't know if they were going to recast him or they're going to do the de-aging. And they chose to do the de-aging, have him look like right after Return of the Jedi, Luke. So I thought that was okay, but you could tell that technology is not there yet. I mean, when he was talking, because when he talks, his lip was like this, the tall, like, so you could just tell that, oh my God, it's not a real person. So the uncanny valley, that effect as they've called it, because they did that in Rogue One with for Tarkin, same thing. So I mean, he looked all right when he talked, but I'm sorry, it's gonna be a while before the tech is really there to make it really convincing. Anyways, he got obviously Grogu's signal when he was on that planet, and so he's like, I'm a Jedi, I can take him and I'll train him, and so he's like, but he's like, well, it looks like, and so Mando's like, okay, Grogu, it's time for you to go. This is where you belong, and he's like, no, he needs your permission, and he's like, okay, all right, you go, Grogu. And so they had a real emotional scene. That was, of course, sad to see them depart, because that's the relationship that's built the whole series, really. Between him and the kid. So he let him go, and so Luke leaves with the kid, and that was the end of the episode, really. Except for the final post-credit scene, and so credit scene we're back on Tatooine. And then we're at Jabba's palace, and you see all the crime syndicate there, and Bib Fortuna, I guess, is now head of the crime syndicate. Took Jabba the Hutt's place, and so Fennec comes in. You see him come in and kill all the soldiers there except for Bib, and then comes in Boba. And then Bib's like, "Oh, Bubba, great to see you. I didn't know you were still alive." I know he's like, trying to kiss his ass, but then Fett's not having it and just shoots and kills him. And then he gets on Jabba's throne. And so it looks like he's now going to be the head of the underworld. And now that's going to be the new spin-off series called the Book of Boba Fett. They announced that's going to come next year. So not only are we going to get that, all the different series that Disney announced, of course we're going to have a Ahsoka spin-off series too from this as well. But so that's going to be also a spin-off series starting next year, and it's going to be exactly 1 year. I think they said next Christmas is when season 3 premieres of Mandalorian. So we got a full year. You guys can be patient for that. I don't know if I can, but we'll just have to wait. So overall, this was an awesome episode. Great way to end the season. I don't know where they're going to go from here now that now that Grogu's gone. What's the show going to be like? What are they going to do? Who's going to get the Darksaber? If it's not, if it's going to be Bo-Katan, or how are they going to settle that? And then what are they going to do with Moff Gideon? So they got obviously a bunch of loose threads to deal with. You know, and then are we going to ever hear from Grogu again in the series, or is it just now Mando's going to be off doing his own thing and off on new missions, and maybe he's gonna they're going to get involved more with Bo-Katan and with Mandalore, stuff like that. We'll have to see. That's my prediction. So, if you guys have already seen it, and leave comments below. And what did you think of season 2 overall? I personally loved it. So I thought definitely the best season yet. So you know, I can't wait for season 3 next year. So leave a comment. Once again, everybody, always like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and talk to you later. Take care. Bye bye.